No, I only have the one number.
Probably forgot it. I gave that number to somebody.
We are good to go.
Gave her number to somebody.
All right. Well, let me pass these out first. It's our agenda.
I'm sorry, pardon me.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got your alert.
Oh. There was one addition to the agenda that went out last week, and that was just to review the preliminary voter roll. I was not sure that I would have it in time. So, we'll go down the agenda. There's a lot to cover, but a lot of it you're gonna take home and kind of look at your leisure and go from there, so. Okay. I'm not sure if everybody knows everybody. I'm Mary Boland, if you don't know. I think I know all of you. Linda Bowen, Betty Tustin, and Jan Belong. And our other member, is Tony Bowen, who I hope is on his way, but we have a quorum, that's the main thing. Now, the next thing on here is the selection of a chair. And I realize that not knowing each other very well, it's kind of hard to do. But I wanted to put it out there if someone wants to put themselves forward for it. Essentially, the main function of the chair is on election day, you may float between the two polling places kind of as needed, and you'll sign off on the election results at the end of the night. Those are the main functions of the chair. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that if it's a floater position, as long as there's not like extra, because I got a lot. If it's an extra work.
It really is not, except for election day, you may just need
The
to go
floating
back
part,
and
yeah, I
forth.
don't care about that.
Okay,
So I
that's
can-
fine.
Yeah.
So whatever, I can do it, or if someone else wants to.
Okay.
Floating's good.
So does anyone have any objection to Gina serving as chair?
No.
Okay.
Help yourself.
I'll be the floater.
Help yourself.
Actually, I like that because I get bored in the same place.
Really?
The only other thing that, might come up is if there's some weird something, usually, I think last time, for instance, we had someone complain that a candidate's sign was in their yard and they had not given permission for it. We just addressed it with the candidate, it was taken care of. But if it came down to it, the chair might be asked to kind of give another official stamp on something like that.
Yeah, no,
So.
that's no biggie.
Okay, so the functions and the responsibilities of the board, pretty straightforward. You certify the candidates. When the candidates file for office, they bring their paperwork in to me. And Miss Linda, I'll give you a new one that has everything up to date in it.
Okay, thank you.
You certify the candidates, they file with me. I review everything to make sure that it's all in order. But then at the end of the day, you'll go through their actual applications, and we'll do that in a little bit. And just make sure you don't have any further questions or see any irregularities.
What's
What's an irregularity?
Well, there are several things they have to submit. So what I'm checking off on is that they have submitted all the forms that they're required to. They've dotted all their i's, crossed all their t's. They are a registered voter. They live within the town and have lived within the town for at least a year, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So basically what you're doing is reviewing what I have said is there, but you're looking at it yourselves to make sure that you don't have any
Oh,
questions.
second set of eyes, okay.
Yes.
Are they subject, I'm just curious, are
Excuse
they
me.
subject to a background check?
They are subject to a financial disclosure, but not an actual background check, no. And then, of course, as I was talking about a little bit ago, you actually do the election, which means that you are at the polling place. We have two polling places, one at the, my nose itches all of a sudden. But of
Police
course,
department in the church?
one is at Buckingham Presbyterian, and then one is at the police department. We used to do it at the multi-purpose building on Flower Street, but it's no longer in condition for that. So during COVID, the police department actually had a setup that allowed us to use a portion of their building without disrupting their business or having their business disrupt the election, that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, it was real smooth then.
Yeah, it worked well. Ultimately, the goal would be to hopefully, when there's a community center in town, we'll move all of the polling to that one location. So I think that will, that's something to look forward to. And then the only other thing really for the function of the board, you review the voter roll, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And you, if there are questions about kind of sort of what I was talking about before with irregularities, things that people are questioning, decisions to be made, that sort of thing, then I would bring those to you and you would discuss them as a group and go from there. So next are the guidebooks. And these are, you want to give me your old one? I can just take that off your hands. These are the books that sort of contain everything that you might need for the election. We'll go through them kind of one by one. Obviously, at the beginning is a table of contents. Excuse me. And the first few pages under section 1 are the actual guide to the elections. Again, this is something that you'll take home and take a look at it, but it explains the town's legal authority regarding elections, the various pieces of scheduling the election. We have certain advertising requirements and deadlines that we have to hit.
Are these ours to?
Yes, those are yours to take with you. You may write in them. You'll get additional things to put in them as we go along, that sort of thing. So the first part, section 1, goes through just sort of summarizes each of the various aspects of holding an election.
Okay.
Then as we dive a little bit deeper, section 2 starts with a list of the board members, and this is for your reference, so you have email addresses and phone numbers, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Some of them picked up as a hyperlink and some didn't, not that it matters on paper, but if there are any corrections to the email address that I have here for you, please let me know. I would prefer to send notifications as emails, but if you prefer to continue receiving it by mail or both, that's fine as well. So just let me know what your preference is. And just if you see anything else on here that is incorrect or needs amendment. Then the next page is the checklist. This form is really more for my reference to make sure that I'm hitting all the dates as they need to be hit, but it's a good guide for you to sort of give you a roadmap of how the election progresses through the year. Obviously, we've only hit the first few things, and then we'll start getting into things. The ads, the emailing them to the paper, getting them run and all that kind of thing, I take care of. I do all the administrative work. Then, behind that, this is something that may be amended as we go through it, but I've found it's helpful to have a list of all the materials that you will have at hand on election day. And what you'll get is a big tote with all this stuff in it, plus some ballot boxes and that sort of thing. Section 3, the first thing in section 3 is, as you'll see, it was dated in 2020 because that's the last time that this information was valid. Once I have the fine-tuned information about the ballots and how they will read, this will be updated, obviously.
Okay.
But then the second page is the actual instructions for processing a voter and taking their ballot. And we'll run through an actual sort of training on this. But again, it's kind of a good idea to read through it and get a sense of how things will go.
Mary, so will we be doing these things, or do you have?
Yes.
Are there other volunteers as well, or just?
We will probably hire 1 or 2 additional workers for the day of.
Okay.
But yes, part of what you will be doing is these functions.
It's not, I mean, it can get a little hectic when you get
It can,
busy time,
it
but
can.
otherwise that goes real smooth.
Yeah. And then the next page after that is the absentee ballot procedure. This is primarily handled on my end. It's done, at town hall just during regular business hours. But this answers some questions that people typically have about absentee voting. People think that we just hand ballots to people and they walk away, and And that is not at all the case. There's a very specific process that people have to go through to get their, to get an absentee ballot. Unlike way back when, you don't have to have a reason to vote out absentee, you just have to ask for the ballot. But you do have to ask, you have to, verify that you're a registered voter. You only get one, they're cross-matched by envelope to ballot, not so that we then know who voted for what, but just that we know that only one ballot came in with that number on it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, after that, this gets more into just sort of background information. These things might be useful, you'll find more useful on election day.
Okay.
Street index by street, which tells you the districts that the particular streets are in, and if they are divided by numbers, how those numbers break apart. And then at the very back is a map. Not all the streets are on the map, but it allows people to point at it and go, yeah, that's where I live, and that tells you what district they're in. So that's more use on actual election day.
What happens if they go to the wrong polling place? You have to redirect them?
We'll have a voter roll at each polling place. So if somebody comes in and they're not on your voter roll, then you can come in here and say, oh, okay, well, you're addressed, you're at the other place. And they
Okay,
go
just
there.
direct.
So they will only be on one voter roll at one location.
So they will have to just go.
Right, yes, they will have to go to the other location. One thing that we talked about last time, and actually I'm kind of glad you said that, because I'd sort of forgotten about it, would be having a limited number of ballots on hand so that people don't have to turn around and go. But what that would then require is some coordination of someone at this polling place calling someone at that polling place and saying, this person just voted. That way they make the note that that person voted, then they can't come into the other polling place and cast a second vote.
That could be done with a text message, probably.
Probably, yes, yeah.
Which I'm the queen of.
There you go, and you're
Yeah.
the chair, so that.
So that's actually, I'm gonna make a note of that, because I had forgotten, we had talked about that last time.
Yeah, I just know that, because people get confused.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah,
well, and they look at it and go, it's such a small town, you
Why
know.
can't I vote here?
Right, exactly, but it's helpful to keep them in separate places with separate roles, because then you do eliminate the possibility of someone being able to vote in two locations. And obviously, if we ever do go to a situation where we're doing all of the polling in one place,
It'll
it's
be
just
around
not
that,
there,
right,
so,
yeah.
yeah. So let me just make a note of that.
Okay.
So one word of caution,
Mhm.
over the years, it could get out that we allow that, and then people could go like, oh, this is. no
Yeah.
Well, I gotta go to food lines, let me swing by the police department.
It's like I always say, there's nothing in this town that isn't a mile from everything else in this
Right,
town,
right.
so, but yeah.
But I get to see someone like,
Yeah,
oh,
if
let me swing in.
someone had walks and it's hard to walk across the highway, that could certainly be a
Yeah, I'll
valid
take
idea.
my bike for
Yeah.
this, because it'll be easier.
Oh, okay, all right, great, thank you. Okay, section 5. These are the actual forms involved in the election. The first grouping of forms are the actual candidate forms. Obviously, the first thing is just kind of a letter explaining the process to them. Then a checklist and the actual filing certificate. And this is what I was talking about, that they turn into me and I go through everything and make sure that all the information is appropriate, it's notarized, all that kind of thing. The next section is the financial disclosure. This is a bear of a document. Incumbents have to file this in April of every year. Candidates file it when they file. So you don't actually ever review these go to the Ethics Commission. But what I will do is simply check off that, yes, we did receive it.
So we don't see these.
You don't see them, right. I mean, they're public documents, everybody
Yeah.
has the right to see them, but it's not your job to review those.
Yeah.
So why do you ask for that? I mean, I want to.
It's actually the state law, it's an ethics law for the state of Maryland.
And you want to know,
Yeah.
if someone may have a conflict
A
of
financial
interest.
interest,
or-
right,
Right,
right.
you know, when they're voting or doing something. I mean, it's hard in a small town, because usually, you're always stepping on
Yeah.
another's toes.
And I think, again, and the financial disclosure is not something that you all need to review, but a common misconception, just because someone does have financial interest in the town, anyone who owns a home has financial interest in the
Exactly,
town.
no, exactly.
Or you don't even need to vote, or, sorry, to own a home. So there's this misperception that if people have a financial interest, they're not eligible to be candidates, and that's simply not the case.
You can't do that in a
All
small
it means
town.
is that they have to disclose what those interests are. Again, that's kind of an aside.
Yeah.
The next form is a committee registration. This would be for people to use if they're going to do advertising or anything. It tells them what they need to consider, has them fill out the form indicating what kind of advertising they're going to do, that sort of thing.
We review this, or?
Yes,
Okay.
if these come in, you will review this. A lot of people never file them, and it's the sort of thing that if suddenly yard signs or postcards or whatever started popping up, and we did not have one of these on hand, we would reach out to that person and say, you need to correct this.
Fill out your form, dude.
Right.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Here.
Hi, sir.
Pass
I'm watching the
these
Emily
down.
Registry
Going.
rules.
We're going through the book, which you have seen several times before.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I think we're gonna remove the section 6.
Yes. The last form for the candidates is the designation of poll watcher. This is a form that we provide them with this form that they can photocopy at will. They give this to anyone who is going to be a poll watcher on the day, which basically is someone who's just going to sit there and watch. They cannot interact with the voters. They cannot interact with the election judges. They just observe. So they don't necessarily even have to have this form, we provide it to them, but if someone comes in with just a statement that the candidate has written, this person is here on my behalf as a poll watcher, and they've signed it, that's sufficient.
Do you get those?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Really?
The last election,
It was pretty intense.
because it was a pretty highly contested election, we did have a number of poll watchers.
Okay.
In some elections, they're not as contested, but we've almost always had at least somebody who's either at the polling place during the day or at the, here at Town Hall for the tally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I
And
was just
then
curious.
Yeah. The last piece is just for your information, because these are the questions that over the years the candidates have asked frequently. So it's helpful just to know what that's about. It's not really a form, but it's information that they're provided with their filing packet. Last couple of pieces are the absentee ballot, the application for the absentee ballot, and the letter that goes with it explaining the deadlines and that kind of thing.
Now, this is something you keep on?
Yes, the way that the town code reads is that it's the Board of Elections' job to review and approve absentee ballots, but that's not practical. So you designate me to do that on your behalf. And again, it would come down to, really, it's just a matter of checking the voter roll to make sure that they are a registered voter at the address that they indicate, that sort of thing. If there's ever something that comes up where I did have usually it's pretty black and white, they're either qualified or they're not.
Right.
But if there was something that came up where it was questionable, then I might run into the board to make a final decision.
And then is their name omitted from our tallies, or?
Yes.
Or is
The
it
voter
written?
roll that you will get on election day, if anyone has submitted and been sent a ballot, they will be eliminated from your roll. So then you know if that person then shows up at the polling place that they've already received a ballot. And unfortunately, we tell people send it in plenty of time, bring it to me personally. But unfortunately, if they say, well, I never got the ballot, once they're sent the ballot, they can't then vote.
Oh.
Because we would have no way of knowing which absentee ballot to eliminate.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense,
Yeah.
100%. Okay.
And then the rest of
Can they bring
it,
us an absentee ballot that night? Or
they can bring absentee ballots up to the close of polls.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. And people frequently do that. You have an elderly or disabled person, but their able-bodied person who is their caregiver or whatever will bring their ballot.
Okay.
Yeah. They are provided a postage paid envelope, so
Okay.
either way.
Okay.
The last couple of sections are just the town code and charter, everything related to elections. Again, this is something you might want to just kind of go through. It talks about the powers and the authority of the council and of the mayor, the running of elections in the town, the ethics provision. If you need something to help you sleep at night, I recommend that one. And then finally, just the general kind of town code regarding elections. So that's the guidebook in a nutshell.
So no 8?
Well, what will happen as we progress through the process, there will be additional things that you will be given to put into the book.
Okay.
I think 8 is primarily the legal advertising, so you'll get copies of the certificates that we did in fact advertise, that kind of thing. And you mostly have that on hand on election day. If someone were to come in and say, well, I never saw an ad, then you have it. You can show them that it did in fact run, and you've got that. Again, this is something, look through it at your leisure, take it to the beach for your beach reading if you want to. And please give me a call with any questions that you may have. Okay, so that's kind of the rundown on the guidebook. In addition to the checklist that you have in the book, on the agenda is also kind of an outline of the upcoming deadlines and the different pertinent dates.
Excuse me, Mary Megan, agenda.
Oh, yes,
Here,
sorry.
Oh,
There's a couple of them there.
here you go, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So there are a number of advertisements that we're required to run in papers. We have to hit those deadlines, we have to run them so many days or weeks in advance of deadlines, and then in advance of the election itself, and various little pieces. And that is all on me to take care of. The couple of deadlines that are listed here, the voter registration, September 2nd. Voters register with Worcester County. They either have to be registered or inform Worcester County that they moved here from somewhere else, so they get their registration straightened out. Once September 2nd has passed, no new voters will be added to the roll. So in other words, if somebody moves to town or just forgets and they don't get it in by September 2nd, then unfortunately,
They lost their vote. Okay.
right, they have lost that opportunity. September 2nd is also the deadline for regular candidate filing, and what that means is not write-in candidates. In order to be on the actual ballot, a candidate has to have filed by September 2nd.
Okay.
Now they can, well, I'll get to that in a second. We also cannot begin accepting absentee voting applications until that date. I don't really know why there is that begin and end, except that it's probably tied to the voter roll. It's just it's in the code. I don't really know what the original reasoning for it was, though I'm sure there was something.
Yeah, something happened.
And I think it's that way in most places, that absentee ballots are not necessarily open all the time. They have a time frame. Might be more generous in other jurisdictions, I'm not sure. The September 27th is the deadline for write-in candidates. Now, if you file as a write-in candidate, you will not appear on the ballot. So that means that it's kind of up to the person to get the word out. But, you know, in other towns, there have been write-in candidates who have won, so it's not impossible. But because it's so close to the actual
Yeah.
election date, we can't accommodate, you know, getting them on the ballot. That is also the deadline for withdrawal of candidacy. We've had that happen in the past where someone has come in at the last minute and said, I no longer want to be on the ballot. So that's also there. And that's also the last day that someone can mail an absentee ballot or an absentee voting application in. September 29th is the last day I have to mail them out. And then September 30th is the last day that someone can actually walk into the office and apply to be an absentee voter. And then October 4th, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. is election day. So usually we get here, I think in the past, we were able to work it out that someone would pick up materials from me the day before and then meet at either whichever polling place the following morning. And then I'm available that whole day. I stay away from the polling places unless absolutely necessary, for obvious reasons. It just looks, it gives a bad vibe to have a town employee hanging around a polling place. But obviously if I'm needed, I'm there. Let's see, what else? There was something else.
And when
I was gonna say.
can we vote, just on downtime?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I just didn't know if
Yeah.
there was any specific
Yeah, because you
rules to
can't
that.
even, and in fact, because of the way that things are set up, you may end up working at a polling place that's not your polling place. So in that case, you would probably want to do an absentee ballot.
Well,
Yeah.
well, then it's a high result, because everybody here's 3 and 4. This
Yeah,
district, too,
yeah, this
all
time, that's
Berlin,
correct, so you,
Police
yeah,
department,
so, right. But obviously, just by the numbers, we can't have everybody there, so it's, when we say that you have to be at the polling place all day, you can go to the other polling place and vote, you just can't, go take an hour lunch, that sort of thing.
Go take a nap.
And you need to be there, you need to be there in as much as possible.
What's
But
the human arrest is?
yeah, to go to another polling place and come back is not an issue.
Okay,
And then following the actual election, you'll come up here and tally the votes. So that can be a lengthy process.
is there wine served?
No alcohol in town.
Barbecue,
So,
music.
and I know that I tend to kind of go through this, and it's hard to convey a lot of it until you're actually doing it.
Yeah.
But if there's any questions about the guidebook or any of what I've just talked about, let me know.
Sure.
Okay, moving on. Candidates. So what I have done is I have each of the candidates who have filed to date, and keep in mind, we still have until September 2nd for more. Excuse me. Each of the candidates who have filed to date, I have reviewed their packets and I've indicated at the bottom that everything is in order. But at this point, you need to look through them and make sure that you don't have any questions. So what we're gonna do is start passing them around.
Okay.
Take a look at them. At the end, when you've all had a chance, if you wanna pass one down, I think there might have been 2 there.
Oh.
So you have 4 candidates so far?
Yes, 4 candidates so far.
Oh, did you need one?
Yeah, I think there were 2 there.
Sorry, is there 2?
No, only one.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Once you have looked at them and don't have any questions, then I have a form for you to sign that you are certifying the candidates.
So when it has this question, it says,
Mhm.
it's not specific on that, it says like 1 or 4? What does that mean?
I'm not sure.
The second,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
On section 4.
it doesn't really specify.
That is because the at-large council member only needs to be a resident of the town. The District 1 or 4 council members need to be residents in those districts.
Okay,
So that's the only 2 seats that are.
There are 3, District 1,
Right.
District 4, and at-large.
I'm curious, who holds 1 and 4 now?
Oh gosh, if you hadn't
Purnell?
asked me, yeah, Troy Purnell is 1, and Dean Burrell is 4, and Jay Nur is at-large.
and you have the notes on the side, is that in the staff form? Something about follow-up?
Let's see. Oh, the Ethics Commission did have a question about what he filed, so that was just a notation, but it had been satisfied.
Okay.
kind of boils down to if he was not able to satisfy the Ethics Commission's questions, then they could consider the financial disclosure not properly filed.
Okay. This looks, okay. Should we be reviewing all of them, or?
Yeah, pass them around, just make sure you take a look at 4 different ones.
Okay.
Kind of
Right. Switch.
And please forgive me if I go too fast. I have a tendency to just zip through things.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Right, on a good pace, keep it smooth.
Done? I thought my signature was getting bad.
So the one did not have this part.
No,
Is that
Is
not
it the
it?
committee designation form? That's something that they can file at any time. They don't have to file it. It only comes into play if they're going to do advertising or campaigning.
Okay.
So at the point that they file, very frequently candidates don't really know what they're going to do, so they don't file that at the time, and that's perfectly acceptable. But what would happen as we get closer to election day, if they do start running ads, sending postcards, putting out yard signs, then they do need to file that.
And who keeps track of that?
You can, if you notice that someone has put out a sign, you can just call me and say, hey, would they happen to file
Okay.
that committee designation form?
Oh.
People, citizens will call and say, hey, I got a postcard, is this on the up and up? That sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I know I will forget.
Most candidates are very conscientious about making sure that they're on the right track. But for instance, if only one person files for a given seat, then the election for that seat is actually canceled. We've had that happen before, where we ended up with only one polling place operating on a day because the candidates that would be for the other poll, the other districts, no one filed against them.
It's not open.
Right, so in some cases then, the candidate may not file that committee form because they're gonna wait and see if anyone files against them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I spend money if you don't need to.
exactly.
Oh, already seen them. Move on to this one.
No, yeah, I have.
Yeah, actually, if you wanted to initial at the bottom,
That only has 3 sheets to it.
Because he's asking the same question about the,
Is-
Yeah, that's the one that,
He
has
did
not
not-
submitted any.
Yeah, he
so,
didn't file that particular form,
Just yet,
yeah.
so.
do you want us to initial them?
It might make things a little easier for you just to keep track of who you've looked at, and that way it's also just
Like
one
right
more, yeah, just on the corner, that's fine.
It's an initial.
Initial, yeah.
Okay.
Initial that one.
No, but. Where are we going?
As long as I've been doing this, every time, there's some new little, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, I mean, you run into
Yeah.
it, absolutely.
So I've seen this one. Yeah,
Okay.
and who has not seen this?
Have you seen that one? I've seen this one.
Thank you.
I think that's the one I haven't seen.
I've seen this one.
Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
I've seen 4, I signed 3.
Okay.
I need one more to signature.
Let's shoot down.
Yes, I like that one. Did you want to initial this one? Yes. Thank you. And I initialed that one.
He didn't put a name of this committee, that's okay.
Yes, yeah. The form kind of serves a double purpose. If there was an issue for referendum, people would use the same form, but if it's for an individual candidate, you know,
We got 4 signatures on this. Let's see, 4 signatures, 4 little initials. 1, 2, 3, we need one more initial. Oh, wait,
Missing an AB.
some were on the
This-
left and some were on the right, so.
that needs an A, B.
Yeah.
And I think this one needs yours,
Okay.
and this one needs
Let's go
mine.
4.
Sorry, I've always.
Yeah, that's fine.
4, 4, 4.
So what I would
And one more
do then is pass this around and just sign where your name is.
Thank you, sir. And 4.
Okay.
And the,
So as I noted, and as you saw, there are a couple, 2 of the seats, as of right now, only have one person having filed. So should that stay and no one else files, those particular elections will be canceled. Now, the ballot will still exist because there's another seat, but it would only affect, in that case, it's at large.
if it's a write-in.
Okay, this particular, or if there's a write-in, yes, either, they still have till September 2nd for regular filing, and then September 29th, 27th for write-in filing. So if a regular candidate, yeah, I had to catch up. If a regular candidate files, then they'll be on the ballot. If someone files as a write-in, the ballot will only reflect the one candidate plus have a space for the write-in. But if only one person files, that particular seat, the election is canceled and that person is considered to have won. So it kind of, it goes right up to the last minute as to whether or not the election actually gets held. And we have had elections in the past that have been canceled altogether, or part of it has been canceled and part of it still ran, so. Okay,
I gotta make a new color for you.
let's see.
Let's do hot pink.
All right, last couple of things. The preliminary voter roll. This is the part that is very old-fashioned, dates back hundreds of years. Part of your job is to review the preliminary voter roll and make note of any person who you have reason to believe no longer belongs on the roll. They may have passed away, they may have moved, You may have knowledge that they have moved from the address that's indicated to a different address. Obviously, you cannot know the disposition of every single person in town. Just take a look through it. If people come to mind that you know of who've moved or passed away, or then make a note next to them. In the folders that I'm giving you are highlighters and somewhere little tabs.
Office supplies.
Yes, and you can keep them if you'd like. Highlighters and little tabs. Make notes on the roll of anyone that you're aware of, and I need them back by August 1st, if you have any notations. If you have no notations at all, just give me a call and let me know. Then what happens is I take everything you've noted, put it all into one document, and send it back to Worcester County. Now, they cannot remove someone from the voter roll purely based on what we say. So I don't really know what they do with the information.
We probably
But-
just research, make
Yes,
sure.
I think this is gonna go by the wayside, because with modern technology and the ability of state offices to talk to each other, things, for instance, people who pass away, it's getting taken care of
Right.
at the time that it
Right.
happens.
An accident.
Right, in the past, exactly. But, you know, I've always kind of laughed about it, and I've said, you know, we can't possibly know about the entire voter roll for Berlin. Imagine Baltimore.
Oh my
Or,
God.
you know,
Yeah.
so it's an old-fashioned
Okay.
thing, but it serves a purpose. So at any rate, just take one. Like I say, I need it back by August the 1st, or just call me and let me know that, that you have no notations.
Right.
And then I will get it back to the county.
Have you ever found anyone?
People usually make, and the thing of it is that I do know that occasionally the same people pop up, because they don't get automatically purged from the roll. So
Right.
somebody can have moved a long time ago, they're still showing up on the roll. But
Well,
as I say,
imagine COVID deaths and stuff
Yeah,
too.
it's just all sorts of things,
Just
yeah.
we've had a lot of funerals
Yeah.
lately, not just COVID related.
but with the improvements in technology, and, you know, and I don't know what the reciprocity between states is, but if someone registers to vote in another state, it's possible, I don't know, that there's a general database out there so that they can then be eliminated from their former state, that sort of thing.
Like
So-
by property taxes and
Yeah,
licenses.
there's all
also,
sorts
yeah.
of ways, but the main thing is please get that back to me by the
First,
1st.
in the calendar.
So that is really all that I have. I came up here with a pile this high, and I'm going back down with one this high, so that's a good thing. Any questions that you have off the top of your head?
Are voters required to show an ID?
No,
They're required to show an ID.
they're not.
Not right.
They're not.
You
Yeah,
can't you can't even get people to vote and then remember to get your ID.
right, right.
I never.
There are really the ability to vote and the handling of voters is obviously a very hot topic and has been for a number of years. There are really some interesting conversations out there. There are communities that need to address the homeless population and how they can vote. Whether or not a general delivery address at a post office is sufficient. And fortunately, it's not something we have ever had questioned. If someone came and said, hey, this is my situation, we would have to figure it out, and we would. But the complexities of voter registration and getting voters to the poll, and it's obviously a very complex issue, so. The only other, go ahead.
I was just thinking, getting voters to the poll, so the residents of Old Creek they're eligible to vote?
Yes, yes. Frequently what will happen
Or
in
the
cases
nursing
like
home.
Gull
Yeah.
Creek or the nursing home, frequently what will happen is one person will pick up a stack of absentee ballot applications. This is where some of the confusion comes in. They're applications only.
But not the ballot?
Right. The resident then has to fill it out and get it back, and only the people that return those applications can get an actual ballot. once upon a time, a particular candidate was observed going into the nursing home with a stack of papers. And people just, but that candidate was just being proactive
Right.
and getting those applications to the
Did they
residents.
win?
So, yeah. And it was, well, and I think too, that there was a local town that actually did have a real problem with just photocopying ballots and handing them out. It wasn't anything nefarious, they just didn't think it out, but it turned pretty ugly, so.
Yeah.
I hope to God we never get to that.
We've never, anytime anyone has ever asked a question, we've already got it handled. It's people's perception is frequently the problem. One of the biggest problems we've ever had is with mailing of absentee applications or ballots, and they just don't get to the people in time. It happens. But once I put it in the mail, I have no control over, you know,
Right.
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And now it probably has to go to Easton to come back.
Yeah, I don't even know anymore how that works, but the next,
Everything goes to East.
yeah, is it still everything goes to Easton? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Easton, Ocean Pines, and then us, it feels like.
Yeah, something,
Yeah, well, that's the distribution center is Ocean
Yeah.
Pines.
right.
Because I always laugh and I'm like, the post office is down the street from me. and
Yeah,
you're
but
trying to
it's
make me
just a
drive to
retail
Ocean
center
Pines.
now, so, yeah. I did want to just double check that the email addresses I have are correct, and please tell me, do you prefer email or mail or both?
Email,
Email?
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
You
And
better do both with me.
both, that's fine, that is absolutely
I
fine.
mean, sometimes I check my email.
And Betty, I'm sorry, did you say you would prefer email?
Email's
Okay.
fine, yeah.
I also encourage you to go on the town, if you don't receive the meeting notifications by email, go on the town's website and sign up for that. That's just one more notification.
okay.
Yeah, I did see the sign up sheet for that,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
the board of it,
I
yeah.
prefer mail right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Jenny, I think you need to get on another telephone number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second telephone number.
All right. Yeah, I locked out my phone, I'm just having a ball.
The only other thing is that we do actually have one vacancy on the board. We do have a slot for one additional person. So if you know of anyone who would be willing to serve, please send them our way. We can do it with 4, but it's obviously not ideal.
Right.
Okay?
Need more than 4.
Yes, yes. And let me just get an official, yes,
On here where it says status, the A or an I, what does the I stand for?
active or inactive.
Oh, okay.
So if it's marked as an I, it means that they have not voted in so many. And that doesn't just apply to Berlin elections, that applies to all elections. Because, I guess I didn't really explain this thoroughly. We do not conduct our own voter registration. It is conducted through Worcester County. So then they pull the Berlin voters out for us. So when it says inactive, it could mean national, it could mean state, just means they have not shown up as a voter in so many years or so many elections. But if they show up on election day, it doesn't mean they're ineligible.
Oh, I got one already.
There you go. And we will, when we meet again, we will go really through the process of how the actual vote goes. It's hard to do that without some of the materials in hand, but we will, so.
4,
Okay.
I mean 4.
4, all right.
And I apologize for the small type. If I had done it at a readable type, it would have been as thick as these binders. So I did avoid doing it two-sided, so that at least makes it a little bit easier.
Actually, we've had so much turnover in my neighborhood, I'm gonna actually just focus.
Well, and that's fine, yeah,
Yeah.
you do, you know, if you, like I say, if you know of someone, if you think of someone, or you know, but otherwise, just kind of look at the addresses
And you wanna
around
tab-
you and,
You just wanna tab it or you wanna
yeah,
highlight?
just a tab is fine, just so that I can find it easily without, you know.
Okay.
But the tabs, whether they stick or not is another question, but just it's fine. I'll find it one way or the other. If you feel like the tabs aren't sticking, just fold the corner over.
We're getting ready to have we've had like 3 or 4 sales in the last few months, so I have a feeling that's why I
Yeah.
said, I looked at my neighbors, and
Yeah.
because I know he doesn't live there.
Yeah. And if anyone, asks, they do have to make sure that the Worcester Board of Elections has been at their current address. Just being registered in the state or county is not enough, they have to be at their current address, so.
Okay.
All right, so now I will ask for a motion to adjourn, unless there are any other questions.
Just safe, and I'm sorry for my lateness, I apologize. I knew there was something about the 12th, there was something about it.
I motion to adjourn, apologize for not calling you.
Okay, thank you.
So we've got a motion from Gina at
Second.
6:20. Tony second, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mary.
I thank you all. As I said, my several phone numbers are in there. Please call me if you have any questions. If you have any suggestions, like I said, this is always a refining process.
Mary, for right now, my telephone number, make it 2883 instead of 2884. That would be my way.
Thank you, that's something else.
I got my door.
Okay, that's not the number I have on here at all. Let me stop the Facebook and then I'll get your number from you, Tony.
She has your home phone number.
We're not home right now.
I know.
Yeah,
That's why I say you need to give her.
yeah, I just gave her Glenn's number.